our next speaker is Hannah Alper, who at the age of 9, Hannah launched her blog, Call Me Hannah, to share her growing concern for environmental issues and show that small actions can have a big change. Now 17 years old, she has emerged as an impassioned speaker and author, using her voice to motivate and empower people of all ages to identify their passion and take action for a better world. Through her blog, social media platforms, and motivational speaking, Hannah supports organizations, causes, events, and brands that, like her, are putting good into people, communities, and the world. So I think she's running a little bit late, but when she comes, we'll definitely let her say hi. And we also have Iris Zhan, who is a 17-year-old Chinese American climate activist from Columbia, MD. They founded Sunrise Movement, Howard County, which is the first youth-led climate group in Maryland. And they also co-founded Fridays for the Future Digital, an international youth-led digital movement, helping local groups run digital campaigns to improve accessibility and impact the climate movement. So Iris, do you want to say hello?
Hello, everyone. Thank you all so much for having me. Can't wait to talk to you all.
Awesome. And next we have Elizabeth Sockwell, who is from Newton, Massachusetts, MA, and has been a climate activist since high school. She is the founder and leader of the 4C Tree Project and is currently working at the nonprofit Green Newton. So Elizabeth, do you want to say hello?
Yes, hello everyone. It's so nice to be here. I'm thrilled to be here and to talk to all of you today. I actually just met Trisha through Instagram, so this is really cool that we can all connect online and discuss these critical issues, because climate change really is the critical issue of our time. And so really excited to be here today. Yeah.
Thank you so much. And I just before we begin, I'd like to say thank you so much to our speakers for coming here. We really appreciate you giving your time to speak about these issues. So yeah, let's dive right in.
Absolutely, I can jump in. I'll give you a little introduction to myself and the work that I do. Again, my name is Maggie, pronouns are she, her. I'm the Deputy Executive Director at Dream Equal, and our mission is to empower all people to realize their full potential regardless of gender. So I'm coming onto this panel as someone very passionate about combating climate change, but mainly through the perspective of gender and how gender intersects with climate justice. So I think that's a really, really important intersection to highlight, and I'm happy to elaborate it on more. What I do with Dream Equal is really all about filling the gaps in the gender equity movement by being really inclusive, including people of all genders, not just focusing on cis white women, essentially, and then also being very proactive, because gender stereotypes develop at really, really surprisingly young ages in children. So it's all about kind of getting into early childhood education and teaching kids how to stick up for themselves, how to be confident, how to express themselves the way that they want to, and also being super accessible and open in all communities. And so I'm really excited to be here on the climate activism panel, because, like I said, there's such a massive relationship between climate and gender justice. And it's really important to me to look at how all people of all different genders are affected in different ways. And so that's really important. I'm excited to be chatting more with all of you. I'm also a student studying theater and international affairs in college, so really love what Artshine Foundation does in getting the arts specifically involved in advocacy and policy and things like that. So yes, that's me.
Yeah, so what I can say about myself, I hope that I will be able to talk more about my activism with FF Digital, which is, as was said in my introduction, something that I created in 2019. That's something that has progressively become bigger as the pandemic has been upon us for the last year, more than a year actually. And so what we've been able to do during the pandemic is to be able to continue climate activism in the digital spaces and actually be able to make impact and be able to, I guess, turn on its head the idea that digital activism can't make a difference just because something that we've seen with with the pandemic, I guess, is sort of a rise of performative activism, but we work to directly organize with local groups in order to be able to actually deliver impact on the local level across the world. And yeah.
And I'll just say a little bit more about me. So I am the founder and the leader of the 4C Tree Project. And the 4Cs stand for Capture Carbon, Commemorate COVID. So really this took off during the pandemic as a result of kind of the tragedy and the heartbreak and the loss that we all experienced, all in different ways, right? But really what this was a response to was just the devastating loss, especially we felt right here in America. Right now in America, over 600,000 people have lost their lives. But this really started back in September when we had reached the grim milestone of 200,000 people who had lost their lives. And at that point, I conceived of this idea of what if we could create a memorial that's not only to honor those who lost their lives to COVID, but also as a way to protect and care for our environment. So we use trees. Obviously, as you all know on this call, trees are a natural carbon sink. They're a nature-based solution to the climate crisis, which is what I'm really passionate about, is nature-based solutions. Like how can we use trees, gardens, rain gardens, pollinator gardens. And I can talk more on that, but the 4C Tree Project is really a long-lasting living memorial to honor and remember local lives lost to COVID. So it's in my city. We've planted 135 trees thus far across our city in public places. And yeah, it's really been a community effort. I'm working with the Green Newton Youth Leadership Group. And yeah, so shout out to Ahona, she's on the call. And yeah, so it's been a community effort and really been a great way to do something during the pandemic, climate focused. So yeah, that's a bit about me.
All of your initiatives honestly sound so amazing, and you guys are doing such important work for our communities and our society in general. I definitely feel like you guys are making such a big impact, and yeah, just it's so amazing. And also Hannah has joined the call. So Hannah, do you want to introduce yourself and kind of talk about what you do?
I would love to. First, I'm so sorry that I was late. I was volunteering at this thing before and I didn't realize that it would take this long, and so I'm sorry. But I love hearing all of your stories. So hi, my name is Hannah Alper and I'm an activist, blogger, motivational speaker, author, and my climate activist journey, whatever you want to call it, started when I was 9 years old. I'm 18 now, and it started when I was 9. I started a blog and I had no idea what I wanted it to be about. And my mom told me that I couldn't write about how much I loved myself. And my dad told me that I couldn't write about how much I loved Justin Bieber. I was 9. It was a phase. But I had to write about something that I was passionate about. And I had no idea what that meant. All I knew was that I loved my 2 dogs. And me and my parents started learning more about deforestation, animal habitat loss, and I started becoming really devastated. But I think, like many of us, I turned that devastation into really motivation to do something, a lot like what Elizabeth was talking about. So I had my blog be about the eco-friendly things and the little things that we can do in our everyday lives that add up to make a big difference. When I was 9, it was little things like shoreline cleanups and eco-friendly cleaning supplies and eco-friendly garages. And since then, it's really grown into me using my voice and my platform to talk about the issues that I'm passionate about, whether it's, so sorry about that, it's my mom texting me, whether it's the environment, poverty, education, clean water, mental health, anti-bullying, self-care. And really my whole goal has just been to inspire people to believe that they have the power, the capacity, and really the responsibility to change the world for the better. Because I think that so many people, and all young people, as we've seen, can and are changing the world. They just have to start, and we just have to give them those tools and that little push to actually start. So that's kind of what I'm about. I'm all about the little things that add up to make a big difference, and amplifying and shining a light on honestly other people making a difference, and sharing that through the things that I'm learning and doing. I'm hoping that I can inspire others to do the same and look at the things that I'm doing and say, if she can do it, I can do it too.
Absolutely. That is such an amazing initiative. And I definitely agree that the little changes can add up and make a huge impact. And it is so important to inspire others to do the same. Since you guys mostly ended up talking about how you started as a climate activist, I'm just going to move on to the next question. So what does activism mean to you? And you guys could just unmute and answer.
I think to me, activism means that you are, in a long-term committed fight for a social cause, and that you are not just about just a few, quick fixes and then that's it, and then you go back to your normal life. As I said, with long-term, it's not something that you just do once and then you're done with, but it's also doesn't mean that but you're doing it all the time, just because I think there's a misconception that activists are doing work all the time. But no, like, we have lives too. And it means that, it has a level of commitment, and that we're in this for the long run, and hoping, to see a better world, not just, right now, but for years to come. And in regards to how, it makes a difference within yourself and your community, I think it makes a difference in the community, and definitely shifting the narrative and the idea of what's possible for change in the community. Just because you can open up the eyes of people, you can mobilize and organize and train people to fight for a better world. And yeah, in regards to methods that are most effective in amplifying your voice, I think that doing collective actions, whether that be online or in person, that really get to the root of the issues that we're trying to solve, are most effective, and being able to ally yourself with as many people and groups as possible, and making sure that everything is inclusive and intersectional.
Yeah, I'll jump in now. I love everything you just said, Iris. I had a conversation a couple months ago with a person, and they had asked me, like, I don't know whether I can consider myself an activist. Like, I am really passionate. I do all these things. I fight for my community, but I don't know if that word is for me. And we had this really interesting conversation about, like, at least, my perspective on activism. And I think you're an activist if you are kind of the steps along the way, at least to me, is identifying a problem, educating yourself on that problem, making a commitment to fix it, and continuously educating yourself and taking action to fight it. That's what I consider an activist to be. I think there's a lot of pressures on people, like Iris was just talking about. Like, there's a pressure where it's like, if I'm not doing something all the time, like, what is it for? What am I doing? What, like, I'm not there yet, or I'm not at that level. And I think there's, obviously people that will dedicate a very large portion of their life to activism, which is amazing, and we love that. But there's also a lot of people out there that are, I guess, I don't know exactly the right way to phrase it, but just like activism, or activists on a smaller level, or in their own communities, even within your own household, I think is something that's really important. Like talking with your parents, talking with your relatives, talking with your siblings and your friends about like what they can do. I think, activism, there's so many different levels to it, and that's something that I think is really important. I know for me, and it is kind of going back to the last question as well, but my very first experience with activism was in fourth grade, and my teacher in elementary school decided to create a group called the Green Team, and we'd go around and we'd pick up everyone's trash and recycle it, and that's how I would spend my days after school. And I didn't even like really realize what I was doing, but that totally like kickstarted my whole mindset moving forward. Yeah, starting conversations so important. I'll stop there for a second because I can just ramble on about that. Thanks, everyone.
No, absolutely. I definitely agree that there are so many different levels of activism. And I feel like a lot of people feel like they need to be super dedicated and dedicate so much of their time to it, but genuinely like making those small changes can lead to a bigger change. So Elizabeth and Hannah, do you guys have anything else?
Yeah, no, that actually, Iris and Maggie, what you said kind of really speaks to me, because my whole motto now, so I've had a winding journey as an activist. I definitely think what Iris said about having sustained commitment to something greater than yourself, to the environment, to our planet, to our fellow human beings, especially those who are impacted most, right? Thinking on them, because like I'm from a very privileged community, so it's not always on my mind. Like I can ignore it, but it's like choosing not to. It's like choosing to care even when you could ignore something. That to me is like what activism is choosing to care and then actually doing the steps to put that commitment into action. But my motto now, I've had a winding path. I'm 23. I just graduated college. I actually had to step away from activism for a bit. I had won like an award when I was in high school for like my activism. I got a scholarship to college for it. I really got a lot of opportunities for it. I was part of protecting our last remaining forest, which is right by my home. That was kind of my pivotal moment. Was this forest was actually going to be cut down by Boston College. So I organized, got people involved, helped save that forest. It's remaining, it's intact. But then I kind of did slip into the depression phase of like, oh my gosh, this problem is so huge. How can I, as one tiny person, really make a change? Like, even if I was doing something. So now my motto is focus on what you can control, not on what you can't control. So just like focus on like, you can control, like we can all like bring like reusable, like, mugs around. We can bring our reusable water bottles. We can bring our bags. We can choose to buy local. Okay, I could go on and on about this too. But yeah, just sustaining activism is important, but it means caring for yourself too, right? Like making sure that you're well, so that you can be an activist. Yeah.
I so agree. I think you have to take care of yourself before you can take care of the world. And I think out of all of the issues in the world, I think climate change and the environment is one that can be really, really depressing, especially when you see all of the statistics on Instagram all the time. And it's just a huge overwhelming issue. And I think this is such a good question because I think there can be so many different answers. And I love everything that everyone said. And I think that when a lot of people think about activism or the idea of changing the world, they think of this. They think of people standing on a stage, talking in front of a lot of people, or making this huge change, saving a forest, which I think is like the coolest thing ever. And I think that's so awesome that you did that. But I think that when people think of activism, they think of that. And a lot of people don't realize that you don't have to be, it's okay if you're not comfortable speaking in front of a huge crowd, you can still make a difference. It's, you can, if your gift is math, if your gift is science, if your gift is logistics, if your gift is your time and your ability to be compassionate and empathetic, that could be your gift and that could be the thing that you use to be an activist. There really are, like so many people have said, there really are so many different levels of activism, and one level isn't more important than the other. And there are so many, I think, methods that are so effective in amplifying your voice. You can, it's simple word of mouth, and it's learning yourself, because you can't care about an issue if you don't learn about it, and you can't take action on an issue if you don't care about it and if you don't learn about it. And so it's education, and then it's educating others. I truly believe that while social media is a really scary place, that it's one of the best tools that anyone can use to make a difference. I mean, if it wasn't for social media, this conversation wouldn't be happening right now. And I think that it's conversations that like these that personally really energize me and really give me hope almost for the world again, and are like, okay, like we have a community, our world is in safe hands, in the hands of young people. And I think that activism can truly mean so many things, and there are so many incredible people that are going out there and being an activist. And I think that anyone that portrays themselves to be an activist all the time, it's just not real. There's their entire, still have a life, and they're not saving the world every single day, every single minute. And that's okay, because we're all human. And activism can also just mean, you know, in the idea of changing the world can mean changing your world. It can mean changing your school, changing your home, changing your community in the smallest way. That's all.
Absolutely. Honestly, what both of you guys are talking about really resonated with me, because I feel like a lot of the times it's so easy to slip into that mindset of, I just can't do anything about this. Like, how do I solve this? But really, like what Elizabeth was saying about focusing on what you can do, and like Hannah was talking about, like focusing on your strengths and like the small things you can do really does make a genuine difference in the society. So the next question, how does being a student or a young person affect your activism?
I personally feel like it's affected in such a positive way, in such a good way. I think in a way it's negatively, of course, like everyone, you know, it's obviously put a very different light into your life and than the best light, but obviously sometimes it's really stressful. Or for me personally, in grade 8, I was bullied a lot for my activism, and so that was something that obviously negatively affected me. But instead, during that year, I wrote a book to kind of and did the whole kill 'em with kindness thing. But sorry, I fully forget the question. Okay, there we go, there it is. I truly think that it's affected my activism, and I think the best way possible, because over the past decade or so, we have seen so many incredible young people stepping up to the plate and changing the world. One of, I think, my biggest role models is, you know, there's people like Malala Yousafzai, Severance Zuki, who was before our generation, but spoke on the stage of the United Nations. And she was one of my first role models, because I saw that as a young person, as a young girl, I could change people's minds and maybe shift people's hearts and minds. And also one of my biggest role models is the March for Our Lives group, and their efforts to change gun control and gun violence is incredible. And they literally sat together in this guy's basement or living room and put together this huge, incredible movement that is truly changing the United States, which I think is so cool. And watching it afar from Canada has been very cool. But I think it's really affected my activism in such an amazing way, because I've really personally been able to see this community form, this community of young people form that are there to support each other. And I've seen as a student and a young person what we're able to do together, and that we're able to achieve so much more together than we are alone. And I think our generation is honestly the best one out there, because I think we care so much. And I think that's such an amazing thing. And while some people only decide to keep it on social media, there are so many people that are taking it to social media and are doing so many other things in terms of the environment and on so many other issues.
I think that being a young person affects my activism, and that, you know, you're trying to grow up in a world that is, you know, has so much, you know, injustice, and you're trying to find your place in the world as you're trying to find your place as an activist as well. And also, you know, it means that you're trying to understand a lot about yourself, which, you know, activism can really help you understand more about, you know, your deeper self and your place in the world, which is nice, of course. And, you know, it definitely forces you to grow up a lot more than you would like to. And that's the thing about, you know, the social injustices that we face in this world, is that, you know, we shouldn't have to grow up so fast and have to spend so much time trying to fight off all these issues. You know, we shouldn't have to do that, but here we are. And so, as I was saying, with, you know, how much we have to, you know, dedicate so much time, that's one huge part, is, you know, having to create balance in our lives, and helping to find our passion along the way.
Yeah, I love everything that's been said so far. I think first, touching on the student aspect, I think, you know, myself as a college student, I'm going to graduate this year, and you know, being in that setting or being in a school setting, I think there's so much access to so many people that are already like in the mindset of learning and being educated on different things. So I think that's like a real big blessing when it comes to like spreading your message and chatting with people about things. And then like was just said a couple minutes ago with social media, I think, you know, as a young person who just generally overall, you know, Gen Z is a little more social media adept or capable with all these different things. So there's so many different ways, you know, today to get your message out there. I know for me with Dream Equal, I initially started as the director of global outreach, and it blew my mind that instantly from the time I joined the team, I was able to, you know, assemble a team for myself and all these other global outreach associates on our team from every country around the world. There are people all over the place in so many different parts of the world with so many different life experiences. And so I think as a young person and having those social media tools, it can be really, really helpful. I also, just one thing, it's kind of touching on what Iris had said just a second ago, but I think a lot of the times there is this idea, especially in amongst, you know, older folks about like, oh, we're creating a better world for the next generation, or we need to build a better future for our children and stuff like that. And I want to encourage every young person out there. It's like, it's not selfish to say, no, I want a better world for myself, like right now. You know, that's not selfish. I think sometimes there's a lot of gaslighting involved, and it's like, oh, we're working for the better future. But it's like, no, I want the better now. And I think young people, you know, are kind of, especially with things like the pandemic and all these like massive things that are going on all at the same time. I'm observing at least people kind of coming to terms with that fact, and just wanting to make more immediate progress. So yeah, I think being a young person overwhelmingly affects activism positively, but of course, you know, there are, you know, it's tough, you know, you'll talk to people and they'll be like, oh, you just don't understand. And I'm like, I bet I've read more than you have. I promise you I have. But you know, it's tough. And I think that the idea of, you know, when it comes potentially at the expense of mental health, or like feeling just constantly overwhelmed and constantly stressed by things, like I think there's a lot of progress that needs to be made on that front, and teaching people how to you know, in pushing for sustainability, like have their activism and their well-being be sustainable as well. Yeah, there's so much good that it does. And I think, you know, bonding and connections with so many other young people around the world is really what's going to make a huge difference.
Yeah, and I guess in terms of my perspective as a young person, and also as someone who was really active in high school, opportunities. There are so many resources. This is actually why I'm getting back into activism, is I really want to convey to 15, 16, 17-year-olds, 18-year-olds, there are so many grants, scholarships, adults who want to work with you. Literally, like, so many adults actually are really good people and want to work with you, but they're busy, right? So what it takes is asking. So another one of my mottos is ask and you shall receive. So ask for what you want, like put your vision out there. Like this 4C tree, like it was a vision in my head. I put it out there. I asked a tree organization in my city. They said no. They said no, we can't do that. It's in the pandemic. No one will donate. It won't work. We can't organize that. And then I went, and I was actually crushed. I actually cried because I was like, this will be really great. We can do this. And then I was crushed. But then I found another organization called Green Newton who had never done tree planting before. This organization had never planted a tree before. But when I brought this idea, the president of the nonprofit that day got on a call with me, met me in person. She loved the idea. We had to convince the board of like 15 people to go for this, to like say we're gonna put this idea out into the community, we're gonna fundraise, we're gonna like plant these trees, even though I had never planted one tree before. Like, you can do something, you just have to put your idea out there. So go out and chase what you want. adults are really susceptible to, or like they really like working with young people, in my opinion, like especially if they're in this field. So just ask an adult. An email, okay, this is my next thing that I really want everyone to know. Email is so incredible. I've like just through emailing like adults or emailing people or using LinkedIn, just asking about like certain things. So now I'm working on rain gardens. Okay. So now I'm looking at how can we plant rain gardens in our city. And this is like something that can, again, capture carbon. You know, it helps with stormwater management. I just emailed the director of stormwater management in our city and she responded and I had a meeting with her. So if you have an idea, just ask. And now she's applying for a grant. She actually, on our call, she said there is a grant for a highly visible rain garden like that a company is looking to do for cities. So she, like with my idea, I took a picture of where I want this rain garden to go in my city. Maybe it will become a reality. So if you like have a vision, yeah, exactly. Just ask and see if it can be done. And maybe it can. Likely it can. So yeah.
No, absolutely, I agree. And I feel like as a young person, at the end of the day, you are bettering the world that we're gonna like continue living in for like the rest of our lives. So it's so important for us to kind of make it the best we can for both like ourselves and the coming generations. And also, I just wanted to like let you guys know if it's possible, could you guys respond in the order of Elizabeth, Iris, Maggie, and then Hannah? It's just going to be a little bit easier for us to like screen record and then like put it together later. And then also, I wanted to address one of the questions in the chat. So Ankit asked, what are your tips on how to reach the maximum audience for aware people about climate change? Because they have done it through Instagram, but it doesn't work. Very few people saw that and took action. So what would you guys advise?
My thing to this would be, I heard this on a podcast somewhere. It's like, you know, Instagram is great. It's about building community, or social media is great. It's about building community, but really the main people you have influence over are your 5 closest people in your life. So focus on the people who are closest to you and start there. Like, yeah, I would actually really just say start small. So, and also take pride in the little wins. Like my friend just Meredith, she's on the call, shout out. She just texted me yesterday, she bought her reusable water bottle. Like, and that was awesome. Like that's a really small thing, but like take pride in like the little things. And also keep sharing. So even if you don't think that it's reaching people, keep sharing because you actually might. You just don't know it. But also then focus on the people in your life.
Yeah, so I think it depends on, what specifically you're trying to share through Instagram. I think it's always important that whatever you're sharing, always have an action step, some way for people to take action, no matter how big or small it is. Something that I will do, especially for FF Digital, like right now, we are running a campaign about Cyclone Tokte, which is a cyclone happened in South Asia, and we were having a webinar and trying to get people to sign up. And, something that I did was that, I put a poll on my story. I was like, hey, have you signed up? And the people who, voted that they didn't sign up, I directly DM'd them the link. And, I think that using Instagram story, stickers can really help engage people, not only because people can directly respond and you can really, get to know where people stand and start conversations with people, but also like, my understanding of Instagram is that the more, engagement there is on a story, the more people will see it. Like I noticed when I have a story that has like a questions box or a poll, like it gets so much more views than if you just put something on your story and, expect people to respond to that. It's all about, having conversations with people and getting them to the next step of action.
Yes, 100%. In school, I've done some projects in social practice art, which is basically like community involvement and finding artistic ways to collaborate on like a social change project and things like that. And the biggest thing that we have always been taught is like, you need to have an action, whether it's a petition, whether it's make this one change in your own life. Just making something that's really clear and easy for people to follow is very important. I also think, there's a tendency to think that, especially like, as a young person, where a lot of the people that we know are on social media, there's this tendency to think, oh, like if I put something out on, or if I post something, if I put it out on my story, everyone's going to see it, everyone's going to read it, everyone's going to do everything. But it really does, like Elizabeth was saying, like the repetition is really important. I would also say, social media is kind of its own community in itself, but I think within that and outside of social media, there are so many communities that all of us are part of, and reaching out directly to those, I think, are really important. I know for me, being like working with an arts company and stuff like that, I've worked on a lot of projects that are focused on like climate and gender justice, and with the idea. So in that case, we have the activism side, we have the middle section that's like art and activism together, but also on this other side, people that are interested in the middle are just arts people that don't really know anything about activism, but they're like the people that will go to a gallery or they'll go attend an art show or something like that. Finding those connections and then tapping into the other side of this kind of weird Venn diagram I'm creating in the air, that's really important. And just finding different communities that you are a part of, that you have a connection to, that's going to make a big difference. And you can do that through social media as well.
So I'll be quick with my answer. First of all, I love everything that everyone is saying. One of my favorite quotes is "Look for the helpers," and it's by Mr. Rogers. And I think that really relates to social media when it comes to finding your community. And look for the helpers you can also translate that to join the helpers. So look for the people and the organizations that are already helping. A bunch of people here have already talked about really amazing organizations. I think that if anyone here has any environmentally conscious or whatever organizations, fully drop them in the chat so people can follow. I'll drop some myself. I think that so you can follow those people and join the initiatives that they're launching to make a difference. You don't have to start this whole huge grassroots movement. You can join other people, and that is just as amazing. And so I think that that's probably the only really thing I would say. I also say, like, I like to think that social media really can make a difference, because as our generation, we're naturally on social media all the time. And I'm also a very big proponent in sharing the good on social media. I really love sharing good news about the environment, because I think that we're overwhelmed and bogged down with a lot of the bad news and the negative things that are going on around social media and around the world, which doesn't really motivate people as much to get involved with climate activism, because it kind of makes them think, oh, I'm just one person, what can I do? But then when you join another organization that is doing amazing things and has all these really incredible movements that you can join, then it makes you feel so, not only does it make you feel good and you don't have to go through all of the effort of starting an entire organization, but also then you automatically and immediately have this entire community of people who will support you and amplify your voice, and then you're actually creating change. So I'm just going to go and drop some organizations in the chat, but that's my answer.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with what all you guys said, and thank you so much, Hannah, for dropping those organizations. And I definitely do feel like social media makes a change in our generation, and you can really reach a lot of people, both like through your close community, as Elizabeth said, and other people, like individuals who just might be interested in joining your cause, like Maggie said. So definitely, it is so important. So the next question, kind of an opinion piece. So should corporations or citizens be more pressured to have environmentally conscious practices?
Yes, 100%, right? This is like a huge issue over time. Businesses as a force for good is going to become more and more popular. Already, we can choose businesses that have sustainable practices. This is one of my favorite things that gives me a sense of empowerment, is just choosing businesses that care about the environment. And also we should pressure the corporations to have more environmentally conscious practices, definitely.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, personally for me, I think it's corporations way more, 100 times over citizens. You know, what is the stat? It's like 71 companies or so are we know it's 100 companies are responsible for like 70% of emissions or something like that. You know, it really shows that, you know, the reason why this whole climate crisis exists and all of our environmental issues is because of corporations and the extractive systems that they have created in our society, and it shouldn't all be on the citizens, because no matter how much, you know, we do, like if we make a few individual changes in our life, those are incredible, those are great, but like if we want to really avoid the worst climate catastrophe possible, we need corporations to dramatically make incredibly huge changes in order for citizens to be able to make changes as well. And so that doesn't mean that citizens can't make a difference just because it's on corporations. It means that we as citizens have to be pressuring corporations to move in the right direction.
Definitely. Yeah, I 100% agree. I think the focus definitely needs to be on corporations, and there needs to be more pressure. I also just want to draw a connection with gender justice as well. Like I think a lot of times we have a tendency to like split up these different issues, and so I think like corporations with like really horrible practices for the environment and stuff like that, a lot of the times that coincides with really, really bad treatment of workers and human rights and things as well. I want to point out specifically fast fashion, garment workers and stuff like that, of which 80% worldwide are women, because you know, I've read so many quotes from different garment workers across the world that like express how, like, you know, if a man stands up for you know, saying I need a better working conditions and stuff, like a corporation feels like they have to listen to them more than if a woman would. I think another thing, just as kind of a subset of this that I want to draw everyone's attention to, is even just how much corporations with their marketing, there's so much of a connection to gender in a way that's harmful with gender stereotypes, and then also with like promoting practices that are bad for the environment. There are a lot of studies like specifically that you can look at with you know, how it's considered very masculine to have like the, you know, the car with all the smoke exhaust coming out of it, and it's like it's dirty and it's bad and it's rough, and there's so much like of a toxic masculinity thing there. And corporations realize that. They totally push the idea that like masculine, tough, aggressive, assertive is bad for the environment, and that's a horrible things to do. And then they make the association of like femininity and softness is with protecting the environment, and that's like a weaker thing to do. And so I think, you know, even in terms of like marketing, there needs to be a lot of accountability on corporations, because they're making conscious decisions, whether it's something we are realizing or not.
I totally, completely agree with all of that. And I think that it really is up to us to, as people and as corporations, to change our everyday habits and to really become more eco-friendly and more environmentally conscious. As I'm going into, I also completely agree with what Donna just said. I love how many issues you can kind of interconnect with the environment, and that gender justice can really play such a huge role. And that's something that I'm kind of trying to learn more about. So definitely like talk to you more about that. But anyways, as I'm going into university, I'm trying to learn more about how I can be sustainable, how I can have sustainability and being eco-friendly at kind of the heart of my, just truly in the front of my mind as I'm going into university. So I've been looking at a bunch of different eco-friendly brands and companies online to really find really amazing corporate, just companies and brands that really have the environment at the front of their mind, or with eco-friendly initiatives and everything like that. So I've actually been doing really, really well with that. Kind of surprisingly, I didn't think that there would be a lot, but there's truly so many, and it's not that hard to find. So I think that when it comes to citizens being pressured to have more environmentally conscious practices, it doesn't have to be spending thousands of dollars on solar panels, which is an incredible investment, and I would someday love to do that. But sometimes it's just looking a little bit deeper to find eco-friendly brands that you can use. For example, I got recycled notebooks at my local store instead of less eco-friendly ones. So I think that you can really implement being eco-friendly into your everyday life, and it's not as difficult as people make it out to be. I think that a lot of people just don't really know where to look, but it's as simple as going onto Google and searching up eco-friendly brands or eco-friendly mattresses, eco-friendly bedding. It's just everything like that. And so something that I'm prioritizing is, for example, like eco-friendly cleaning supplies, and that's something that I just bought yesterday. And yeah, and I think that we should also be really commending corporations for taking positive steps to make their company more eco-friendly. For example, Shell, which was it's like, I don't know if they have it in the US, it's a gas station, and they have it here in Canada, and they took an effort to reduce people's carbon footprint, and a lot of people were bashing them for it. And you do, sorry, I didn't know. And a lot of people were bashing them for it, and completely rightly so. But I think that the thing is that if we don't commend or acknowledge when a company is doing something good, then they're never going to change. So I think that when a company is doing something good, even if it's for publicity, but it's still a good environmentally conscious action, we should be commending them for it rather than bashing them on it, because otherwise nothing is going to change. That's all. I'm going to stop talking now.
No, absolutely. Like, I feel like, especially nowadays, with more education among other people, and especially with the rapidly changing climate, I feel like companies are becoming more aware. Definitely, there does need to be more change, but they are taking steps in the right direction, and we need to commend them for it. And yeah, I also do feel like citizens do have some power in their hands to make environmentally conscious decisions, but definitely. And now we're just going to start an audience Q&A till 10:40 PST. So if anyone in the audience has any questions, feel free to ask them in the chat.
Until someone asks a question, can I ask a question?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. What do you think is like the action that you're the most proud of throughout your journey, I guess?
You guys can answer in any order, by the way. Just feel free.
Thank you. I'm so not great at following orders, but it's hard to pin one down just because I think there's definitely a lot, of different actions. I definitely have to say that one of them would be creating FF Digital. I mean, FF Digital is my baby, and something that I'm really proud of, just because I feel like it's, made a great impact. Yeah.
I would say building connections. I think the thing I'm most proud of is how many incredible people I've met because I care about our environment. So like the youth activists that I'm working with at Green Newton are so inspiring. My good friend Christina, who's also on the call, shout out. She works at EBI. It's an environmental consulting firm. We've bonded over the environment. I've met just so many incredible people. I started a blog, you guys. It's called achievablegreen.com. And I'll put this into the chat. But basically it's really to show that you can build connections with people, and also consider when you build connections, you can consider so many new solutions. So I think that's what I'm most proud about. Through the 4C Tree Project, I met a board member from Green Newton who is the founder of the Earth Law Center, which is really cool upcoming law to say that nature has rights just for itself. It has the right to flow freely, a river has the right to flow freely, and all these things. And so his name is Tony Zell. Now my friend who's a law student is interning with him. And so that's like a connection I'm really proud of, because maybe she'll go into environmental law because I was able to connect them. So sometimes it's just connecting people that can help put the puzzles together, because I really do believe we all have a purpose here. And so if we can like help connect each other to where we're supposed to be, that's really powerful.
I think for me, like as cliche as it may sound, it's like the little success stories that you hear from people based on like the things that you talk to them about, or how they've gotten involved with your mission and your movement. I know like Dream Equals a chapters-based organization. We have like 39 chapters throughout the world. And I will occasionally just get an email from a chapter, and there'll be, you know, someone there, and they'll just share a story. And for instance, like I know this one chapter member, I believe from our chapter in Morocco, was talking about how their little brother was you know, playing with toys and got like really uncomfortable when his sister brought like a girly toy and was like playing that, and then she was able to like explain to him like that, you know, all these things, it doesn't matter what like gender it is, that's made up, that's okay, like you can play with whatever you want to play. And so like little stories like that really, you know, keep me going, keep me motivated. And I consider that like one of the greatest accomplishments is just seeing, you know, all these people that I've never met before. And I'm sure it's the same for everyone here with your activism, especially digitally. Like there's so many people that we've never even met in person, but, you know, because we've connected on so many different levels with our activism, like are doing such amazing things. And it's just like so exciting. And I feel so proud of like everyone I connect with through this, you know, activism journey.
No, definitely. Hannah, do you want to answer the question yourself?
Oh, sure. I totally didn't even think about that. I probably should. I think it would either be just the ability that I've been lucky enough to have to really impact people with the things that I've been learning and doing, and whether it's someone that reaches out and says, because you did this, I did this. And so it's really people that start or take that next step in their own activist or change making journey because of a message that I saw. And I'm a very big optimist, so that's definitely something that I'm like very proud of, when someone else takes something that I'm doing and does it too, even if it's volunteering for a few hours. I really like to volunteer at the food bank, and so I got a couple messages after I put some resources on my Instagram, and I shared some pictures of me volunteering, and said that they signed up for some shifts volunteering at their own local food bank. So that was really amazing. And then also a few years ago, I was lucky enough to be one of 50 people to watch for 2018 for on Bloomberg's list. And I was the only Canadian, but more than that, I was the only young person on the list by probably like 15 years or something like that. And I remember I was at the gala in New York, and a bunch of people were coming up to me and asking who my parents were, because they thought that I was like the plus one and that my parents were on the list. And I was very proud. And I said, actually, I'm on the list. And I had so many conversations with people, being able to tell them about so many young people around the world that are changing the world and that are making a difference. And it really gave me hope. And I don't know if it's not something that I've done, but it's just something that a moment that was really cool for me to be able to just share young people's stories, because that's something that I've always been really passionate about, and just amplifying people's stories, amplifying people's experiences, real people's real stories, and show adults that young people are really changing the world. And I think it showed that adults are finally ready and willing to listen to young people's voices, which I think is so incredible and important. And I think we're really credible now, and we're truly, truly making a difference. And I think this is proof of that.
No, absolutely. And I think you guys are honestly so inspirational because of all the initiative you guys are taking, and honestly, you guys have achieved so much. And even if it's just like small things, I definitely feel like it's something that all of us can like look at and also try to implement in our own lives. And before we end, there's like one question in the chat. So Ankit asked, what are your tips on how to find brands and partners for collaboration? Because I've been already working for an environmental organization. Any tips from you guys?
this is something I'm looking into myself right now. So I don't know. I think I'll pass it on to someone else. Maybe Hannah can answer this better.
Yeah, I love, so I hate, I don't, no, okay, I don't hate, hate is a strong word. I think that the word influencer has a really negative connotation, but I feel like I'm an influencer for good because I love sharing brands that put out good into the world and brands that align with my values, my ideals, and my passions. I collaborate with brands that are making a difference so that I can amplify them. For example, right now I'm working with Glad, the garbage bag company, because they have an initiative called Glad for Change, and it's all about mobilizing Canadians to pick up garbage and do shoreline cleanups and do these community cleanups in their community, even during the global pandemic. So I think that that is so, so cool. And their challenge is literally to pick up 50 pieces of garbage as like that small start, those little things that add up to make a big difference. And there are truly so many incredible companies and brands that are out there that are making a difference. I would say it's like a weird tip, but go into like even your tags, like your hashtags, and like literally search like sustainability, eco-friendly, or go onto Google and search eco-friendly brands or eco-friendly corporations, and they will fully pop up. For example, even Value Village is a brand that I've collaborated, or a company I've collaborated with, that is amazing because they really are, I mean, they're thrifting, and thrifting is amazing for the environment. It's amazing for your financial pocket, obviously, but thrifting is such an amazing alternative to fast fashion and everything like that. So I would definitely say look at organizations like that. In terms of things that aren't the environment, Dove is an amazing one for self-esteem and girls empowerment. Personally, I love working with them, and there's just a lot of really amazing brands that are putting change at the forefront because they know that that's what people want. It might not be because they really, really want to do it, but they know that that's what people are looking for. So I would go onto your Instagram literally right now and search sustainability, eco-friendly change, or go onto Google and literally search eco-friendly companies or conscious brands, and I promise they'll come up. Also, American Eagle has also been pretty good because they have like an entire line of this thing called Real Good, where it's all eco-friendly. It's an entire eco-friendly line. So companies are they're getting there very slowly but surely. They're getting there.
Yes, definitely. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I just want to talk about making connections, just because like I have labeled myself the networking wizard because I'm great at making connections. At least my friends say so. Yeah, so for making connections, the online world, the internet is a great resource, as we have mentioned many times. There are so many incredible things out there. There's so many. I think that when I started networking, I started first, doing research, because like when I started doing activism, I was doing stuff on the local level, and I was just, looking up things in my community. And then from there, I went to all these events and meetings and stuff and connected with lots of people, and then using social media is incredible for making connections, following people, reaching out to people, and of course, attending events really helps as well. Attending such events are really great for learning about different initiatives and then connecting people involved in different initiatives. And yeah, just learning how to be a good networker. It takes practice, but yeah, you sometimes have to be willing to put yourself a little out there.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, I'll just add on really, really fast. I would definitely suggest creating like just a list of dream brands, even if it's like things you think are way, way out of your reach and stuff like that. Just create the list, observe it, look at it, see, what kind of themes or what kind of practices are coming up that are in common amongst different ones. So you get an idea, and really, just ask, just go for it. Like, I know it's intimidating, and it's like, oh, they're not going to read my email, or they're not going to look at this and stuff like that, but they might. And I know like even for Dream Equal, we have like an event coming up later today. That's like a fashion show, and we just like DM'd a bunch of like influencers and stuff, and like everyone responded. I think there's this idea that it's like, and a lot of times it makes sense, but like, we might be a little bit too cynical about people that want to help things. And we're like, oh, no one wants to help me. Like, no one wants to do this. No one wants to support. But a lot of times they do. And you can find really, really amazing people that are part of brands or associated with brands that are going to open the door for you. I think it's more of a people thing than anything.
that's going to be the end of our panel. I wanted to just thank you guys so much for coming to it today and just hearing you guys speak and being so passionate about your activism and the change you're making in your community. Honestly, I can say inspired me, and it really got me thinking about like things I can do that are just like so easy, especially with like finding sustainable brands or maybe just reaching out to people and making a local difference. And I feel like it's something that everyone in the audience as well can definitely do and implement into their lives. So Trisha, do you have anything to say?
I just wanted to say thank you so much, you guys, for being here. I really appreciate you spending, your Saturday morning, afternoon coming here. And I'm sure that you inspired everyone here today. I'm so inspired by all the work you guys do. Thanks for staying connected with me. And, I individually follow all of your guys' work. And I'm just constantly inspired and amazed. And I'm just so happy that, you're here at STEAMivism today. So yeah, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Trisha. This was awesome. This was so cool. And yeah, thanks for putting this all together. This is great. All you Art Shine people. Yeah, thank you.
Y'all are great webinar participants. Panel.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. It was so great to be here, great to connect with everyone, and really appreciate the Art Shine Foundation for putting this on.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Have an amazing day, everyone. Thank you.